Hello, y'all. Christian White, the One Day at a Time Dad, continuing on with my Listening to Learn series. Today, I am being interviewed. Please introduce yourself. This is your show for the rest of the time.
Okay, so my name is Tanisha Toka McCray. I'm 35 years old, single black woman. I live in Dorchester, Mass, born and raised. And what got my attention about Christian is the work that he's doing in the community, being a single father and a father of a child with autism and an ex-convict, and just the way he's turned his life around and is doing a lot of positive things moving forward.
Sounds good. This is all you right now.
So I had like a couple of background questions. Like,
she has a whole laptop with like a screen full of questions.
This is an interview, so
she came prepared.
Basically, like, where did you grow up and who raised you?
So I grew up, my dad was a single dad. Mm-hmm. He was married for a little while, but multiple girlfriends. So there was always a woman figure around. Mm-hmm. I grew up multiple places, Mission Hill, on Calumet Street when I was really young. I was originally born in New Hampshire. In a few weeks, I moved to Maine to get some surgery done, and then moved right out to Boston, where I grew up on Calumet Street. I grew up on literally probably 10 to 15 different streets from the ages of birth to 15. And that's Boston, Lynn, it's multiple different cities.
Okay. How would you describe your childhood?
Horrific. In a word, horrific. I've since seen my childhood from a different perspective. Okay. And that's been for about 10 years, 15 years now. But yeah, for the most part, it was pretty rough. Okay.
All right. Looking back now, how could your childhood have been better?
Better. I mean, off the top of my head, I wish my dad would have dealt with some of his mental health issues. Some of those he passed down, some he didn't. But I feel like if there would have been more of acceptance of like love, and we weren't allowed to cry, we weren't allowed to express emotions except for the ones that were already given to those gender roles. Gotcha. So I feel like that kind of put a monkey wrench in things. But yeah, I feel like if my dad could have loved himself, then it would have been much better, because the energy would have came down to us.
That is so true. That definitely, that emotions and feelings grown up, and I'm no female, but I can only imagine for men, they're portrayed to be and act a certain type of way. You know what I mean? Like, being tough means, not showing how you feel or showing like a more sensitive side. And
absolutely.
That is crazy. Who did you look up to as a youth, and why?
I really looked up to my dad. I looked up to my older brother. And mostly because they were the only ones there. And I mean, I love them both. I wanted to be like my dad more than I wanted to be like my brother. But I mean, both in some ways pushed onto me their own negative aspects. So I took those on willingly and happily because I wanted to be like them. So I figured if I could be better at it, whatever they were doing to me, then somehow I would be better than them. And I looked up to my older brother and my father. Those were my two main role models.
Got you. What aspirations did you have growing up?
When I was in second grade, in Miss Yee's class, we did that typical, what do you want to be when you grow up? And,
yes.
And by this age, I had been going through the sexual abuse at home for about probably 4 years, and 3 years, and because I was double promoted in kindergarten or in pre-K. I skipped kindergarten and went to the first grade. So I was a little bit younger than the classmates. So repeat that one question. I had a thought. I don't want to go to the left just yet.
I just said, what were some dreams and aspirations you had as a child?
So in terms of dreams and aspirations, to keep it totally honest, from the youngest of ages, I wanted to be a sniper in the Army.
Nice. Okay.
I wanted to be able to take out anybody that hurt me or abused me.
Okay.
This was my fantasy. This was my fantasizing. But in terms of aspirations later on, I didn't have money. Okay. I looked down on myself. I didn't have love for myself at that time, self-worth. So I was just kind of going with the flow and accepting
how it is.
Whoever gave me the most attention at the time, or just kind of winging it.
What do you think your biggest letdown was as a child?
that I wasn't listened to or believed.
Okay.
Because there were several times when I spoke up about the sexual abuse.
Yeah.
And, you know, my dad, for whatever reasons he dealt with, whatever he was dealing with, like, he just couldn't hear me. And I mean, this was around 6 or 7, so it kind of shut me down a whole lot.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just want to like kick into some like basic information, like who are you? And if you give me 5 words that describe you.
5 words.
Or 3, whatever.
I would say authentic, loving, caring, assertive, powerful, persuasive, and open to learning.
Okay. Well, that's for 5. You gave me 7. I like that. Okay. And what are some qualities that you possess?
First and foremost, to read situations pretty well.
Okay.
I'm very good at spotting patterns.
Okay.
And that comes from, you know, doing the work on myself. Once I was able to spot more patterns in me, I could see them in other people. And nature and everything else. I love to read, so I'm very good at inferential reading. I love studying and then putting into practice.
Okay.
I'm very good at giving hugs.
Hugs?
Yeah, I'm very good at giving hugs.
Hugs are special.
I'm trying to think. It's hard because
it's okay.
It's hard trying to like describe what I'm good at.
Yeah, just whatever like kind of floats to your head. Like that's the thing about like when you ask questions, just kind of whatever pops up. That's the most genuine answer, pretty much, you know. And
I'm also good at being a dad.
Okay.
Yeah, I've learned how to be open and stay open.
Based on how you were raised, you know what I mean? Right, that makes sense. How do you think you're unique from others?
This right here. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people trying to bring voices that typically don't get heard, but I mean, I haven't seen it yet.
Correct. Okay.
So, I do believe I'm unique in the sense of I can touch many different worlds and understand what they're saying and doing in those worlds, and reliably translate information from one world to the next.
Right. Okay.
Whether I'm having an interview with a young man talking about the gang life, to interviewing a politician talking about a new policy. I'm able
to adapt.
I'm able to adapt, and I'm able to explain both points of views and how it's looked at.
Okay. Do you know your mission in life?
No.
No?
I stay open to it, but I mean, I could I'll put it like this. I remember when I was a little kid.
Yep.
The best way that I could describe how I felt I would turn out, it would either be like a Hitler or a Jesus.
Okay.
That's how I knew whatever impact I would have was going to be powerful.
Nice.
You know, what side I would end up on, I didn't know at that point, but I always knew there was something about me.
That was, yeah, I know what you mean. I think a lot of us have that, but we're just afraid to tap into it or even recognize it.
I mean, in me, I try to find ways to tap into it.
Right.
Like, I mean, I want to see how powerful I can be.
Yep. See where it can take you. You know,
100%. That's my goal.
I love that. How does your existence in this lifetime make the world a better place?
It's funny. No, me and my son talk about this all the time when we talk about the autism, and you know, he asks if it makes him different, and you know, and I explain to him, everyone that's in the world has their own consciousness. We're all connected through threads and through commonalities, but at the end of the day, you still bring a unique perspective. And if you're tapping into your powers, that perspective shoots out like energy into the world. Definitely. And if I'm not here, then that energy is still existing, but it could be in a different form.
Right.
And it wouldn't be me that was expressing it. So just me being here and anyone else on this earth being here makes them unique if they're tapping into that and utilizing it.
Okay, that's cool. Can you describe like an ordinary day in your life?
An ordinary day.
Just a basic day, nothing crazy.
Day. So during the day, and I'm working remotely right now, I'm a therapeutic mentor. Okay. So I help young men from the ages of 13 to 21, up to 21. I work underneath a clinician. It's in-home therapy services. Nice. So I work under a clinician. They do the more so family therapy. I focus directly on the client. once in a while I'll have family sessions, but I focus on the client, help them build lesson plans, help them try to understand what their goals are. But for me personally, it's I like the job because it's a full wraparound service. It's not just wrapping around the kid.
Right.
It's asking the parent what do they need as well.
Input, right.
So, you know, yeah.
What is your dream job? Or are you already doing it?
No. My dream job is to work with parents and to travel the country and the world doing motivational speaking. That would be my dream job. If I could have 4 or 5 bookings a month to speak and that take care of my bills, and then anything else of that extra, then I would rather do that. But ultimately, my goal is to work with parents. Because I mean, it's always been my belief that if you can help heal these parents in a few generations, half of these systems and programs don't exist, and then they'll have to either adapt or it'll be clear that they're just trying to hold people back.
Right. So true. What is an ideal lifestyle for you? Like if money wasn't a factor. Like
if money wasn't a factor. I'm very much a homebody. I'm a very boring person in that sense. I would have a home that literally I had everything that I needed. So I would only have to go out when I needed to. I would go on vacations. But it could be all the time in prison that I spent. I don't know, but I love being home, especially when I'm paying for that shit. I love being
It's yours. Home. You pay for it. Why not?
Like, it's hard for me to even sleep out somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, I love being home.
In the house. All right. So what are some personal interests or hobbies you have?
Personal interests, I love reading. I love reading about psychology, politics. I love watching documentaries about, you know, from people like Eckhart Tolle. I love like inspirational documentaries. I watch a lot of documentaries on, you know, the history of structural slavery, scientific structural slavery. Trying to get an understanding of the biggest picture that I can. The biggest picture that I can. I also like just walking. I like taking pictures. I love looking at clouds. I feel like they're talking to me, so I love looking at them and talking to them and trying to figure out what they're trying to say. I love a lot of things.
That's good. How did you become a single father?
So when I went to prison, my son's mom was 8.5 months pregnant. When I came home, he was turning 9. Well, he was 2 weeks from being delivered when I went to prison. So I came home and I hit the ground running in terms of trying to be the best dad that I could be. And 6 months after I got home, they moved to Georgia. So his mom, him, and his 2 siblings. He has an older and a younger sibling that I'm not the father of. And I was driving down there once, twice a month just to go give him a hug and all that. And so I went down there to pick him on Christmas vacation. And I brought him back up. And once we got to the house, his mom texted me later on that night and was pretty much like, you know, he seems to like it up there and I'm tired, so just keep him. And so I kept him.
Wow. Okay.
And that's how I became a dad.
What are some weaknesses or bad habits or flaws you think you have?
One of my biggest flaws is I tell myself I'll remember it. Like, I make a lot of plans with different people, and half of them I forget simply because I didn't write it down. That's definitely a flaw. A weakness of mine is I can sometimes be too nice without considering, like, you know, somebody may have made a choice to be in the position they're in. I'll still try to fight for them and all that, but it's like, I need to be better at recognizing they had a choice in that matter, and I need to respect their choice, especially if there's consequences that come with it.
So true.
But yeah, that's what comes to mind first off.
That's interesting. What are some struggles as raising a child on your own? Some struggles you go through?
So he does go to his mom's for the summer. Other than that, he's with me. I take care of everything financially. The struggle is just not knowing if I'm doing good enough. In general, just not knowing if I'm doing good enough. I mean, I can look at him and I see he's doing fine. I can look at him at 13 and me at 13 and know that his life is, you know, 180-degree difference. I think what I find the hardest part about it is on the days I kind of don't feel like parenting, like still having to parent, like, you know I still have to make I still have to make him something to eat. I still have to do laundry. I still, it's. I don't like when I feel like I go into those robot modes. Okay. Like in my mind, I want to love parenting every moment, but I'm starting to understand that it's not like that. You know, there's many moments where it's like you wish you could just be like, yeah,
I'm just gonna sleep in today.
I'm just gonna do it. Yes. So that was a big adjustment because I was so used to just being a bachelor. And it's just hard when you see, like when I see like my son struggling with something and I know that he needs to struggle with it and I want to like do it for him.
Yeah.
So that's hard. But I mean, a lot of the stuff that I do good as a parent now was slowly being established before Christian actually moved in. Like I was already getting my finances in order, already building my credit. I was already doing everything to take away some of the pressures later on. So once Christian came, there was some financial pressures because I didn't understand just how much a kid costs when they actually live in your house.
Right.
I didn't know that type of stuff. You know, I didn't know laundry was so expensive. I didn't know one kid could go through so
many
much.
Clothes.
Yes. You know, trying to deal with IEP meetings and teachers and doctor's appointments. It was just stuff I had never had to do on my own.
Right.
Or consider. So, you know, so I found that to be a struggle in the beginning. But other than that, I mean, things are pretty, like, Christian's a really easy kid. Like, good. So, you know, he's very, very mellow-tempered. I mean, he has his moments, but other than that, I really don't have any issues. But yeah, I think what I think about most is, am I doing good enough? I think that always kind of crosses my mind.
Right. It was good enough.
But I notice it connects to the work because I question myself with the work. Am I doing enough? Am I making the best moves? Like, so, you know, that's what comes to mind a lot.
So he's a junior too? Christian?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
He's adorable. I watch the videos of you guys all the time.
Thank you.
All right. So in your Facebook bio, it states that your religious view is energy. Can you explain?
Of course.
I love that. I love this. This is my topic right here.
So I don't believe in any sort of traditional God. I don't believe in I don't believe something external somehow is going to bring us to some form of enlightenment. I believe it's all inside of you. You know, I believe what's out there is in us, and that's where the focus should be. And the more I focus on that energy, I find that it connects to other energies. So that's I guess if I said I had to believe in a God or some sort of something like that, it would just be the connectedness, that energy. When you reach that certain level, you experience happiness on earth. Right. I mean, I don't believe there's anywhere to go after this. I mean, our energy dissolves and gets put back
to something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
What does self-awareness mean to you?
Self-awareness to me means being aware of not only what I'm doing, but why I'm doing it and the motive behind it. That's what self-awareness means to me. Because for so long, you know, I used to lie to myself. Right. You know, and say certain things didn't affect me, or certain things didn't bother me, or that I didn't like certain things, or so I figured out that part of the self-awareness journey, which I connect to the self-worth journey. All of those are kind of connected to me in my own journey. But yeah, it was really being aware of, I did that. Even if I couldn't control doing it in that moment, why did I do it? And revisiting it to the point where even before I do something now, I know in my head I'm doing that because I feel fucked up and I want to do some fucked up shit. Okay. Or I want to do something nice. But either way, I'm aware of that.
No, got it.
So later on, there's not any sort of backlash from any outside force like, oh, you should have saw this coming. Like, no, I chose to do that.
That was my choice.
Yes.
I'll accept whatever comes along with it.
Absolutely.
Nice. So your political view says do what's right.
Do what's right.
You know, it sounds so simple, but just explain a little bit further.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Right.
About a week ago, I put up a post that said the MBTA is going to begin charging soon. Okay. What can we do about bus passes for essential workers? Okay. So I texted every politician I know, every council person, anybody, their aides, anybody connected that I feel like that I have a personal number for. So I texted about 7 different people, and 2 people reached out right away. And it was interesting. So Anissa Wasabi George, she's a city councilwoman at large. She was one of the people I texted. So I texted her like 8 something in the morning. She texted me right back and was like, that's a great idea, great suggestion. I'll get right back to you.
Okay.
Within a few hours, she got back to me, had a draft letter written up to present to the mayor. And what was interesting is somebody reached out to me and said, well, why did you reach out to her? You reached out to so-and-so and so-and-so. That should have been sufficient. Because there was, well, that's politics being played.
Right.
If you have a great idea, give it to your team first. I don't really have a team in that sense.
Right.
I don't care who follows up on the idea. Even if, maybe they don't think it's a good idea, fine.
Right.
But the fact is there's not something in me that says, just tell that one person that idea. My idea is tell everybody that idea.
Exactly.
No matter who says they're loyal to who, or it doesn't matter. Get it out there. So that's an example of just do what's right.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Because some of the politicians that I personally like better, if you want to look at it from that context in terms of policies and things like that, they didn't get back to me. Or they got back to me, but it was
After
like, I'll get back to you again. And it was more like she took action. What can I do but respect
Just
that?
put it out there and she bit.
That's it. What can you do but respect it? But that's do what's right.
Right.
Just do what's right. It's like, I'll give you another example. Like a lot of people ask me why, I didn't participate in the protest and things of that nature.
Right.
And I explained to them, I have about 17 felonies on my record.
Exactly.
If I'm in a protest situation and I see somebody being hurt in front of me, I'm gonna act on that. And for me, an assault charge is not gonna be reduced to a disorderly conduct for like it would be for most people. And if I happen to get indicted on an assault charge, that's 10 years for me.
Right.
So I have to balance my way of fighting back with being a dad, with being, nobody's going to be there to pick Christian up if I'm in jail.
Happens,
so it's what I had to understand was you have to be okay with your particular form of rebelling. And raising a great kid is part of that.
Yes.
That's a part of the fight. Somebody has to be an example for these kids.
That was a great part of it. So I was looking into so I did a little snooping, your past employment, and I see it involved like childhood development, like behavioral development and social services and community outreach services. What made you pursue that path and why?
I saw that I was good at it in a lot of ways. So that's more so resume stuff, official stuff. Prior to that, whether it was in prison or when I was getting out, I was still going around to the neighborhoods, talking to the young men and women, talking to parents, talking to my peers, just trying to, something I'm big upon is, breaking the generational cycles in families.
Okay.
It's something that's near and dear to me, and I talk about it a lot. So that sort of outreach work, mentoring work, that's all under the table. It's, in a lot of ways, it's more important than anything I'm doing now, but it's not official.
It's official. If you put it out there and you did it, it's definitely official.
So, the way everything changed is I ended up starting a poster campaign in Boston. And I was hanging up signs everywhere in Boston, Springfield, Lynn, Lawrence, Lowell, and asking if you go to jail, will the gang raise your child? I hung up thousands of these posters, and they started getting attention because I wanted to figure out a way, how do I touch more dads and young men that might be hurting people instead of having to literally go block to block. So I did the poster campaign, and then what ended up happening is people started reaching out to me.
Right.
So it made it a lot easier in that sense. So I hung up posters in Chelsea, and a woman named Amy Eisen, who works for MGH, works for this thing called Healthy Chelsea. So she saw my sign And she was like, I gotta meet you. Can we? So I ended up meeting with her, and I ended up becoming involved with some projects out there. I ended up getting onto a few councils and boards with MGH, with Department of Public Health, with the CDC, Center for Disease Control. And that's the stuff that you're reading on the bio.
Okay, gotcha.
That stuff started coming later on, where where I started continuously speaking up about parents, and the fact that I feel like the young man and woman who may be dibbling dabbling in the streets, voices aren't listened to. We say we want to connect the community, but we're not talking about them. We're only talking about the voters and anyone else that can contribute to that campaign. So I was real big on trying to broaden that definition, and honestly, I feel like over the past few years, some people have taken notice of it, and but yeah, so a lot of the work started directly from that poster campaign. From that poster campaign was when I ended up linking up with Rachel Rollins and campaigning for her, and that put me in worlds that I would have never been in otherwise. So I started seeing more how politics was played. Right. I mean, it makes me dislike politics even more. Yeah. But I understand that this is the system. Yeah. And you have to work within the systems as they are. Even if your intent is to dismantle it, you still have to understand
to play the game, right?
And so so a lot of that work stemmed right from the poster campaign. Though I was doing it before, the poster campaign scaled it, and then the stuff that you read on my bio is people who reached out to me because of all the things that I was doing at that time.
Okay. All right. So what is the One Day at a Time Dad Incorporate all about? Like, what's the purpose of that?
So the purpose of it is, the original purpose of it was to hold space for, and even though it says dad, you can interchange dad with parent. This would be for anyone who showed up, but it turned into community events where I was bringing, it was like a reverse listening session. Okay. I was bringing men and women and moms and dads and everyone from the community, letting them give their testimony and inviting people empowered to come listen to them. Okay. As opposed to the community coming to
listening to them.
Yeah. And the good thing about that is if you showed up, then you probably wanted to be there. Right. So, but it involved a lot's changed since COVID-19, but for the big part, it involved these groups where I feel like there was healing being done, where people were truly getting at some of the root causes of what they were experiencing. And at the same time, it was bringing together people who don't often just come together. So I'm bringing active gang members to the meetings, people who are retired from it, people who are halfway into it, but they all have a different experience. And within those experiences are solutions to their particular issues.
There's connection.
And there's connection. So I wanted to so a big part of it was bringing those connections to other connections and connecting all the worlds that I found myself
into. Have you benefited from this field of work? Personally benefited? Sorry.
Monetarily?
Yeah. No, I'm like just on a personal aspect, like whatever you gained from doing this type of.
I've gained some structure in my thinking. Okay. Which is something that I've never had. It made me a lot wiser in terms of waiting to see what happens next. Okay. Normally I'll act on a situation right in that moment, but there's so many more little details that are playing in it. So I'm much better at doing the work. Has taught me how to be much more patient and to listen much more efficiently.
Got it. Nice. All right. So as far as getting incarcerated, and I don't really want to get into that, but I just as far as doing the time and what do you think influenced you to do what you do? What influenced you to make that choice that got you in trouble the last time?
So the last and final time I was arrested.
What were you going through at that time?
I mean, for me it was a very standard going through. So I've done 3 state sentences, 3 county sentences. So prior to my last and final time, I was going to college, but I was still in the streets. So I was still always half and half. And a lot of it was predicated on the fact that I just wasn't addressing certain mental health issues. Okay. Or more correctly, mental health injuries. because a lot of what we go through, this was inflicted on us.
Correct.
Whether by systems or people. These are injuries that we have to deal with later on.
To heal.
To heal. And so before I got arrested, I was very much in like a suicidal frame of mind. Whether it was suicide by cop, suicide by anybody outside. I mean, I didn't care.
Just ready for it.
I was ready for it. I just didn't care. It didn't matter. And what was interesting is it was right at a point where I was addressing my mental health hard. And what I didn't understand is that I would be so open and raw. I was learning that just by choosing to address the mental health.
Right.
So it made me understand that, you know, when you're addressing certain things, you need grounding techniques, you need safe spaces, you need to be around people who care. And but yeah.
Well, do you have any regrets? Life regrets in general?
I do, but I wouldn't change them.
Gotcha. Okay.
I do, but I wouldn't change them.
So you don't have any regrets?
I have no doubt that people have been hurt by my words,
Correct,
actions
yeah.
in some form or some ways. So I regret that. At the same time, I'll qualify it by saying I wouldn't be me if I didn't go through
what you went through. Thank you.
So I have regrets, but I wouldn't change it.
Okay. What is a time you would say that you were at like rock bottom?
There were plenty of time. I mean, shit, how much time you got? There is honestly way too many. I mean, I struggled with depression, major depression, post-traumatic stress from an early age for many years. There were many moments where you know.
How did you pull yourself up?
It was a joint effort. It actually began when I had taken some pills that belonged to my little brother, some psych medication. So literally from 6 to about 29, I probably slept like 3 to 4 hours a night, every night, because the abuse typically happened at a particular time at night. So I would always wake up. My body would just wake up and I wouldn't be able to fall back asleep. And so my mind was just trained to wake up at 2 in the morning every morning. And so what's the best way I can say it? Trying to think of how to say it. I hate getting stuck on words. Keep going. I'll come back to it because I want to talk about that, but I want to make sure I'm clear with what I say.
All right. So, what advice would you give to like young men that are going through rough and desperate times?
I mean, I don't care if they're young men or young women or old women. The advice is the same. I mean, you have to find a way, no matter what, to carve out a piece of time for you to contemplate just what the fuck you're going through.
Okay.
You have to. You can give words of comforting, that's fine. But if someone's in that exact mind state, then it's not a waste of words. It might help in the moment.
Yeah.
But what I tell people all the time is find where you lie to yourself and begin with that. And that's just because that was my beginning.
Right, okay. It's deep. That's deep. So I'm gonna switch it up and, you know, call it fun facts, I guess. What is your favorite food to eat?
Rice.
Rice?
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite song of all time?
Wow. Favorite. I don't know if I have one.
Right, okay.
But if I had to say what's a go-to song that I love that makes me feel a particular way, it's a song it's a song from Tupac off of Thug Life Volume 1. It's called How Long Will They Mourn Me? And Under Pressure. For some reason, when I listen to those, because those were songs that I listened to when I was in the height of everything. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And what's a movie that you'll never get tired of seeing?
A Beautiful Mind.
A Beautiful Mind?
Yes.
I'll have to look up that.
Yes, it's with Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, and I can tell you why, because it plays a huge role in my own life. So the movie's about a mathematician named John Nash, based on a true story. He was going to MIT. And for the whole first half of the movie, and it's like a 3-hour movie,
Okay.
you would have thought that he was a spy getting secrets from the Russians and giving them back to the Americans.
Okay.
Come to find out, he's a paranoid schizophrenic whom you just happened to be a part of his visions
Okay.
all this time. So he had a niece and a roommate in the movie, and they never got old, and he never noticed that. He just thought that they were always a part of him.
Okay.
So when it's revealed that he had paranoid schizophrenia, he asked himself, he said, I'm a mathematician. Why can't I think myself out of this sickness? And the doctor says, well, that's because it's in your mind to begin with. So everything that you think is filtered through that. So you'll never be able to see yourself truly past your limitation. So, and for me, there's a part in the movie near the end where he goes to the roommate and the niece, whom by now he knows are imaginary. And he says goodbye to the roommate and he hugs the niece, and he's just like, I love you, I care about you, but I just can't see you anymore. And what it did for me was later on in life, when I reflected back on the movie, it played a huge role because it put me in a position where I was at a time when I was looking for that next level of healing. And I figured out that next level of healing was putting to bed all of my defense mechanisms.
Yes, letting go.
But, so I went into a room and I had a conversation with all of them. You know, I appreciate y'all. You kept me alive. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. If the goal was to keep me alive so I could live, then I have to let you go now. And the reason why I have to let you go is because I'm not in that mind, environment, anything anymore. So at this point, it's not helping me.
Yeah. That's deep. What is the worst advice that you have ever received?
I don't even know if I could answer that. The worst advice I've ever... I'm not sure I can answer that.
Okay.
I can't think. Nothing like jumps out at me for that. No.
All right, that's fine. Then what is the most bizarre encounter you've ever had? Good or bad? Good or bad? Pick one.
I was I want to say 12. Me, my sister, my aunt, my stepmom, and my little cousin, we drove to Tennessee to meet my family, meet one of my aunts, and they live on a farm, very, very country, very, very dark at night, and I wasn't allowed to smoke cigarettes, but I was smoking cigarettes. So I would sneak into the barn where nobody was, and I would smoke. And so one night I go there because they're having a bonfire near the barn and they're doing s'mores and all that. So I sneak off to go smoke, and I go into the cattle barn, and I was in the corner, and I went to light up the cigarette. And when I lit the cigarette, the cow's nose was like right here. That's how dark it was. I couldn't even see. And I remember I had a gun on me because there was some people that were caught poaching on their land earlier.
Yeah.
So we drove out with the spotlights and the guns and all that, because you could protect your property. And I had a gun on me. And I always think about how I was so scared. Like, it was such an odd scenario. Literally, I was sizzling the cow's nose. That's how close it was.
Did it make a noise?
Like, I couldn't even move. Like, I forgot that I had a gun on. Like, I was so scared. But it was really bizarre that had happened like that.
The cow didn't react to nothing?
No, I ran out of there and went back to the barn.
Went about your business.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what do you look for in a companion?
Authenticity, openness, knowing when to be quiet. Somebody who just doesn't regurgitate opinions but does their own research.
Gotcha.
I don't have a particular makeup physically, because it's more so if there's an energy there and I'm attracted to it, then I'm attracted to it.
Yeah, okay.
But more than likely a mom. Just because it's kind of easier, you know,
just to transition.
When it's hard explaining why you never have time. You know, but if you're a single parent, then you know why you don't got no damn time.
Got it.
But yeah, just, I mean, honesty. She has to be very affectionate. I'm very affectionate. And yeah, somebody that likes to be around you without talking, like somebody who can feel more.
Sit comfortably without.
Yeah,
exactly. Like in silence.
Because when I'm at home, like I'm quiet. I'm a homebody. Like I don't want to talk all the time. I don't want to just sit there and. Yeah, and then this, and then that. It's like, yeah, I was just talking about psychology for 12 hours all day. I
just want to be at peace, quietly.
Yeah. I want to watch The Wire now. Leave me alone.
Gotcha.
Like, but no, so authenticity, a good heart, someone who's affectionate, somebody who knows they're sexy, somebody who knows their worth.
Confidence.
Yeah, somebody who knows their worth.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's an absolute deal breaker?
Absolute deal breaker?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, you couldn't say anything bad about my kid to me. Not many deal breakers. I'm very open to like learning somebody.
Right?
I'm really open to learning somebody. So no deal. I mean, it would either be in a moment where like they just did something and it was like, or showed me a pattern of theirs that,
right? It's like,
and it's like, no, we're not going to be able to work.
It's not going to work
at all. Yeah.
Well, what does commitment mean to you?
Everything. So, one thing I'm big on is agreements. Whatever we agree on, that's what I feel like. That, in my mind, that's what's going to get done.
Okay.
And so it's like, for instance, in a relationship, relationships are agreements to me.
Okay.
You know, we need to discuss exactly what it is we're looking for here.
Exact expectations.
Expectations, wants, you know, where do we collide, whatever the case may be. But if we agree on something, then it's only a violation outside of that.
Gotcha. What would you tell like an absentee father? What kind of advice would you give somebody who's absent, a father that's absent?
I mean, you know, we have to forget even absent fathers are on a spectrum, in the sense of there's many reasons why a father might not be in there.
Just by choice, maybe it could be like a situation with their mother where they don't get along, but just choose not to be around.
I get it. I mean, in terms of if they feel like it's less stuff
Stressful.
to deal with. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, put it like this. First and foremost, a lot of our, in my opinion, free will is zapped once we have a kid. There are certain things that we need to do no matter what.
Okay.
So, for instance, when I came home from prison, you know, I didn't know how Christian would respond to me. And I was okay with that. I had reached a point where I was okay with that. I was okay with that. I might just be a financial provider. You know, I mean, who knows? He might never accept me. But I mean, I knew that I would do anything in my power to be in front of him, to, you know, talk to him, anything.
Okay.
So what I would tell dads is, or an absentee father, is you have no clue about the love you're missing out on. No clue at all.
Yeah.
Like you'll never get that time back. Never get that time back.
So precious.
And what I tell fathers is too, it's like, don't get me messed up. I hate the family and probate court. I think they're a true destruction on families.
It is.
What I will say is, I know that I dogged my kid's mom. I know that. So when I was in prison and she wasn't bringing him up, and I used to be bitter about that, and this would be for years on end, I started realizing, and I said to myself, like, you screwed her over so many times. Did you think like all of a sudden she was gonna want you to be the best dad and go out of her way and her time to bring him up? And no. And I expected that, but then when I started understanding, like, she's her own person. She's gonna heal in her own time.
Yeah.
I can't push that, because in prison what happens so often is when we do take that time to think, because we have that time to think, we end up jumping up levels emotionally and mentally. And then people on the street, they're still stuck in the everyday life.
Yeah.
So we grow on one level a little bit more than them, but they're constantly growing up on us because they're actually living the life that we're waiting to.
You guys are like on pause, have time.
We're on pause.
Yeah.
And you know, the work you do is real, but it's just not put to the test yet.
Gotcha.
And so when I started understanding that I hurt her too, she needs to heal. And me having a kid with her isn't just going to make her forget the pain that I caused her.
Right.
So what I would tell dads is look, if you know you played any particular role in what happened between y'all, own up to it publicly to her.
Right. Okay.
And if that doesn't work, it might not work. I remember there used to, after 3 years of trying to reach out to my son, I remember I said, you know what? In Canteen you can buy cards, either English or Spanish. And I bought one in Spanish. And I had no clue what it said, but I knew it was like a holiday, whatever kind of card. And she responded to it. And she was like, wow, that actually made me laugh. Because in the card I wrote, you know, English hasn't been working for the last 5 years. Maybe Spanish will.
Right.
And she actually responded to it.
Okay.
But it was just the fact that you never give up.
Yeah.
Consistency is everything. Because even if the child's mom doesn't heal, eventually your kid will see you for what you are if you're trying to be there.
Yeah, they can see the persistence.
They will see the persistence. But if you're not persistent at all, or if you've given up, or if you feel like it's too late,
they see that too.
It's only too late if your kid is not here anymore. And they need you. Kids need their dads. They need healthy dads. So many of men weren't taught to be healthy.
Yeah.
I was raised to be the N-word, and I was good at it. I wasn't taught what it meant to be a brother or a father or an uncle or anything, or a neighbor. I was taught very basic instructions. And just because I was 27 when I went to prison the last and final time, I might as well have been 16 years old with the same mentality that I had, you know?
Yeah. That was great. Well, I don't have any more questions right now, but
totally
I
fine.
Definitely love this interview. I learned so much more about you, and I would actually like to work on you on some projects that I have going on as well.
Sounds good.
So my last question is, do you have any questions for me?
No. I just appreciate you doing this.
I appreciate the time and the opportunity, pretty much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, y'all. Christian White, the One Day at a Time Dad, continuing on with my Listening to Learn series. It's a series where the hope is you learn more about yourself and somebody else, and it